and welcome to All About Cars, and thank you so much for writing in. We've got loads of questions, but we will get to that and we'll answer them later in the video. But let's start with what was all the buzz about this previous week. So we've got the Gloster, we've got the Audi Q2, and of course Mercedes has launched its first ever electric car in India, the EQC. So we'll tell you all about that in a bit. So let's start with the MG Gloster. It is a competition to the Toyota Fortuner and the Ford Endeavour. Now we say that the pricing on the MG Gloster is good. It's not fantastic because it doesn't undercut the other two full-size SUVs. The pricing is at par. Given that the Gloster is a new brand, MG is a new brand, and we've got the Endeavour and the Fortuner as really established brands. If it would have undercut these two, then the Gloster would have made for a really good value proposition. And we say value because even though it's priced at par, it packs in a lot more features, especially the version towards the top. Now, the Gloster starts at 28 lakhs ex-showroom or thereabouts and goes up to 36. Our recommendation is to go for the top spec one because not only do you get a more powerful version of the same diesel engine, more torque, but you also get really clear defined features that differentiate it compared to the Endeavour and the Fortuner, level 1 autonomy being one of those things. If you're not sure about the Gloster, if you're not sure putting so much money and you don't know whether it's going to be reliable and what's going to happen with the car, well then there is the MG Shield. We've seen that with the Hector, makes the Hector an easier purchase decision. The same thing works for the Gloster as well. So if you don't like the car, I think there's a buyback option. You have good service packages, so you don't have to worry if something fails because it's all taken care of. So overall, it's a good product at a good price, but is it going to really outsell the Fortuner? No, it's not going to do that. It's still going to be like a 3-digit a month sort of sales figures. Fortuner sits at about 4 on an average. But it is a good step for MG. It probably helps establish it as a more premium brand, which is what they're going for with all the features in SUVs, etc. So a good thing with the Gloster, we feel, in terms of pricing and positioning. Now next up, let's talk about the Audi Q2. The Audi Q2 is going to come to India as a CBU. The launch is on 16th October. The bookings are already on. We expect that the price for the Q2 would be about between 30 and 35, which means it puts it at par with the likes of what you're going to get when the 2 Series Grand Coupe is launched. That's a Grand Coupe sedan, 4 doors. This one's an SUV. But still, I think that's where it's going to be in terms of competition. This would be Audi's cheapest, most affordable model to begin with now. And it will come only with one engine option. There's just going to be a 2-liter petrol, around 190 horsepower, quattro, so all-wheel drive, all of that. In terms of size, it is smaller than the X1. In terms of size, it is actually smaller than the Creta as well. And it is for people who want to step into the luxury realm, if you will. So you would find people upgrading from Cretas, from Compasses, those sort of things. But the idea is that you're essentially going to be buying into the badge more than in terms of space or utility. Equipment-wise, of course, it's going to be right up there. But we'll see what the pricing is on 16th October. So next time when we come and speak to you, we will probably have the prices for you. So watch out for that. Final in our news section, we've got the Mercedes EQC. It is Mercedes' first all-electric car for India. I had spent some time driving it, and the thing is that the good thing about that EQC is that even though it's electric, it feels and conveys that it is a Mercedes. So you will not be, it's not like a generic electric car. It does feel like a Mercedes. It is about, I think it's just under £1 crore ex-showroom, and this is only for the first 50 units. Then the pricing will go up. It is, of course, coming in as a CBU, and it's a great statement. It's in terms of features, in terms of driving, you have that torque, so it's a different experience, but it's a lovely experience, and it's a practical car. So if you're looking for something which is luxurious and you want to make a statement, green statement, style statement, whatever it may be, the EQC might be a good option to go for. And now let's talk about a car that I drove. I drove the all-new City all over again. I had driven the car previously, but that was only the petrol CVT. This time I drove the petrol manual. We've driven it for a different story altogether. We want to talk about affordable cars, everyday cars, but cars that are fun to drive. And we think the City petrol manual is one of those cars. I spent a whole day driving it around twisties, and when the day was done, when the shoot was done, I was still smiling. So a good car in that sense. We will not get into a lot of details now. For that, you should come back and watch that full video when it goes up. But I can tell you that when it comes to engine, the sound, the way it delivers its power, and you've got brakes and handling and all of that, I think the City makes for a very nice car to drive. So watch out for that video. Now let's start our question and answer session with Instagram. We've got a couple of questions on that front. We've got Zishant first, and he's asking us that he's interested in the Thar. And he wants a convertible, but he's not so comfortable with a soft top convertible because he feels it's not as safe as a hard top, and he's asking if there's going to be a hard top convertible. So I think in terms of safety, especially when you're talking about soft top, you're probably worried about rollover protection, but I think it comes with a roll cage, so there's nothing to worry about in that sense. And we don't think that there's going to be a hard top convertible for the Thar, at least in the near future. So I hope that answers your question. Next up, we've got Shubhranshu, and he's asked us what's the best SUV to buy under 20 lakhs. So we'd say that your options include the likes of the Kia Seltos, the Hyundai Creta. You've also got the MG Hector, the Tata Harrier, the Nissan Kicks, the Jeep Compass. So lots of options. Of these options, if you're looking at something that is family-oriented, city-oriented, comfort-oriented, good ownership experience in that sense, and good resale, when you want to sell it, we'd say go for the Creta. It is a well-rounded package in that sense. Now we have Rohit, and Rohit is asking us about the proposed vehicle scrappage policy, about how it would affect used car ownership and prices. So I don't think it's going to change how you own cars or what the pricing is too much. It will finally depend on the age that is set for a car. When you buy a car, a new car, and the government says, okay, in 10 years you're going to scrap the car. So depending on when you sell it or when you buy it, in that 10-year span, that will define whether you're going to pay more for it or less for it. So if you buy it closer to the expiry date or a scrappage date, of course you pay less. The sooner you buy, the more you pay for the car. The only thing that I feel will change is that today we can command, or people can command, more value for a specialized car. Could be a 4x4 or something that hasn't sold a lot. But that may not happen when you have this scrappage policy in place, because no matter what, special or otherwise, the car will not be allowed to ply after it's reached its expiry date. So that would probably be the only change that I see, but otherwise it's going to be similar. Next, we've got a question. The name says not so popular, so we don't know what your real name is, but you would know who you are. And not so popular is asking, when would Mercedes A-Class sedan be launched? Now, the AMG version of that car was shown at the Expo, and the plan was to bring it sooner. That's not happened thanks to COVID, but now Mercedes says that we will see that car in the last quarter of this year. Whether it's calendar year or financial year, now I think Mercedes works calendar year wise, so we should see it now around the festive season. We should see that launch. If not, then of course it will come in February, March, thereabouts. And now let's take some questions from Twitter. We've got 3 questions and we'll take you through them. So we've got Sandeep, and Sandeep's asked us, what's the best automatic petrol hatchback to buy under 10 lakhs? On the road is what I'm guessing. He's looking for a spacious cabin, good build quality and smooth driving. You've got 2 options as we see them. You've got the Maruti Baleno with a CVT, and you've got the Honda Jazz again with a CVT. They are around 10 lakhs on road, depending on what spec you choose. And the Jazz is more spacious, is more practical. The Baleno is probably nicer to drive, lighter car, so you can test drive the 2 and decide which of the 2 suits you more. Next we have Devansh, and Devansh wants to know what's the best SUV to buy under 40 lakh rupees, and it need not be a 7-seater. So we'd say you've got two options that you could look at. You could look at the Honda CR-V and you could look at the Hyundai Tucson. They're both road-centric SUVs. They're both good to drive in the city and to live within the city. Good for munching miles on the highway as well. Safe, comfortable, quiet, planted, all of that. But if you want something that can take you beyond the beaten path, then probably you'd want to look at the Jeep Compass 4x4. That's available in an automatic as well. So these are your options if you're looking for something under 40 lakhs on the road. Next we've got Akshra. Akshra wants to know what's a good car to buy in the 6.5 to 7 lakh bracket, especially for tall people, 6 feet and above. So, and of course, it also has to have an automatic transmission. So for this price, you'd probably get an AMT. You won't get any of the older conventional automatics, torque converters, CVTs, DSGs, etc. So it's an AMT, and you'd only probably get hatchbacks with AMTs for this budget. And your options include the likes of the Swift and the Grand i10. Both good cars. We think Swift is a nicer car to drive. But Grand i10 also, in terms of quality, look, feel, etc., is probably a step above. So you can decide what works for you, but these are your most plausible options. And now let's move to our Facebook friends. We've got, again, 3 questions there. And let's begin with Chao Bhargab. That's the name that we've got. And he or she is asking us, how is the Ford EcoSport in terms of owning? Are there any issues, etc.? Well, this I can answer really well, because we have an EcoSport in the family and we've had it now for 5 years and we've not faced any problem. Really low maintenance, service cost, labor cost, parts cost, etc. We've got the diesel, and it's a similar story for the petrol. So in terms of ownership, in terms of problems, there aren't any. Good ownership experience. So yeah, if you like the EcoSport, you should definitely go for that. We've got Abhilash Raj, and Abhilash Raj is asking us which would be a good car to go for. He's got a long list of things that he wants. He wants to buy it sometime in 2021. He doesn't want to spend more than 12 lakhs for it. He wants an SUV, and he wants an SUV for 5 people. He's considering the XUV300 and the Creta. So both good cars. XUV300 we like a lot at CarWale. It's a good driving car, nicely built. It might look a little old on the inside, but otherwise it's mechanically very sound. And it's a good option to go for. But the thing to remember is that it's got a really tiny boot. So for 5 people it works, it's wide, so you can easily seat 5 people there, but boot is small. The Creta, on the other hand, has a bigger boot, but you might have to spend a little more to get spec for spec. But so that's the thing. If you are willing to expand your budget a bit, then you can buy a nicer version of the Creta, which is what you should go for instead of the base version. But if not, then the XUV300 is a good buy. Just remember, small boot, but otherwise a fine car. Final question on Facebook. We've got Supreet Pal Singh, and Supreet wants to know, he wants to buy the Thar, he wants to buy the petrol-powered Thar, and he wants to know which one to go for. The petrol or the automatic. He's looking for something that's more fun to drive. So we'd say if you're looking for something that's more fun to drive, manual is the way to go. You have better throttle response, you have better feel of control. You can enjoy the petrol engine a lot more with the manual. The automatic is more about convenience, and it's a 6-speed torque converter, so it's not exactly very alert or quick shifting, and kickdowns aren't lightning fast. So between the two, we'd say go for the manual, and Thar now have a really light clutch, so that's not a bother either. And now let's take some questions from YouTube. We've got a whole list of questions, so thank you so much for writing in. And we'll start with Varun. Now Varun wants to know which of these SUVs is the best when it comes to off-road. He's asked us between the Ford Bronco, the AMG G63 Mercedes, the Land Rover Defender, and the Jeep Wrangler. Now as it turns out, I personally haven't driven any of these, especially off-road, and so I'm not in a position to comment, but we will get the Defender here. I think the launch is on the 15th, so we'll get to drive that. We'll drive that off-road, so we'll be able to tell you how the Defender is off-road. We've also driven the Wrangler in the past, not the new one, and it is a supremely capable vehicle, but we'll be able to draw a parallel with the Defender once we drive it. The Ford Bronco isn't coming to India just now, it's just been revealed, so we don't know about that. And the G63 is just too expensive for us to take off-road, so I don't think we'll be able to answer that question even when we get to drive it, so sorry about that. Next up, we've got Divyam. And Divyam is asking us, why doesn't Toyota launch cars like the RAV4, the Corolla Cross, popular international models in India? And the bottom line, or the simple answer to that, is that we don't have the customer base to buy those cars, especially at the prices that they'll come at. Now, these are internationally spec models designed with customers in mind that would be willing to pay more. Given their size, given their output, given their positioning and where they'll come, as Indians, and we love value, we will never pay the sort of money that Toyota would want for these cars to make sense and for them to be profitable. So that would be the answer to that. Next up, we've got Maguluri Bhargav Chaudhary, and he's asking us about the two launches from the VW Group as part of their 2.0 India strategy. He wants to know when would the Skoda Vision Ion and the VW Taigun be launched in India. So we'd say both these SUVs would come sometime in the middle of next year. We've seen a concept of the Vision Ion and a more production-ready concept for the Taigun. We will see production versions of these cars, or at least for the Vision Ion, early in 2021. So yeah, so mid of next year, we should see launch of both these cars. Anirban Ghosh asks us whether he should go for the EcoSport base model, petrol, or the Freestyle. So it's quite a simple answer to that. If you want something that's more spacious, that feels like a bigger car, that drives like a bigger car, then of course the EcoSport. But if you prefer more features, if you prefer more feel-good features in that sense, then of course the Freestyle. But in terms of space, utility, and the big car feel, there is a big difference between the two cars. We'd probably go for the EcoSport. Bigger size, big car feel always feels better. Nitin Senthil says that he's a doctor and he wants to know whether he should go for the Thar or the Seltos as an everyday car. So we'd say that now Nitin, you haven't told us whether your work takes you into the interiors where you've got poor roads, no roads, etc. If that's the case, then Thar is a great option. If not, then for city-centric use, I think Seltos works better. It's got 4 doors, 5 doors, but 4 access doors, 2 seats. It's got more space, it's more comfortable, it's more road-centric, so easier to live with in the city, easier to park also. So that is what we'd say. If you go in the interiors, go for the Thar. If you're going to live or use it essentially in the city, then go for the Seltos. Beast is asking us about the color, what color he should go for in the Thar. He's going to buy the Thar, he just wants to know what color. So personally, I'd say I love the brown. And I love the turquoise blue that we've used for our reviews, and but of course you can never go wrong with black, so these are the 3 options. Samir Anand has asked us whether Mahindra will offer rear disc brakes as options in the Thar going forward. So I don't think that's going to happen. It's not like on motorcycles where you can just strap on a rear disc and then amount of R&D involved and all of that, and cost escalation isn't as much. So in 4-wheelers, it's a little more difficult than that, and I don't think Mahindra is going to go for that. They've already built a business case around this product, the way it is, and the costing, and that's why we see the pricing that is already there. But it's not like the Thar really needs disc brakes at the back. We've used it, it's got a good set of brakes. You shouldn't have any trouble on that front. Next we have Vaishali, and Vaishali's asked us which of these 3 cars she should go for. She's looking for the City with CVT, Sonet, probably again with the automatic, and the Creta 80 as well. Now she's not given us a cost thing, but we'd say if you can afford the Creta, I think it's the Creta SX that comes for around 17 lakhs thereabouts. So if you can afford that, that is the car that we'd recommend of the three. If not, then City is the more spacious of the two compared to, I mean, if I were to compare the City and the Sonet, the City is more spacious. It can seat 5 more comfortably. It's nicer to drive. You're sitting lower on, towards the ground, so you get a much better driving feel on that front. The Sonet will give you that SUV feel, and it would work better probably if you deal with taller speed breakers, etc. And you probably and I think you get a DSG gearbox with that car. So you can pick and choose. If you can afford the Creta, buy the Creta. Between the City and the Sonet, like we said, City is more practical in a way and nicer to drive. The Sonet, of course, looks better. Now we've got Piyush Tiwari, and he's a fan of the Thar. He says he cannot afford the LX version, so he's interested in the AX optional with a diesel drivetrain, with a hardtop, etc. And he says it's costing about 14.5 lakhs on the road, so is it worth it? If you're a fan of the Thar and if you can afford it at 14.5, then absolutely go for it. I mean, the Thar is more than just a car with features and feel-good play toys, etc. It's a lifestyle choice. It's more than just that, right? So if you like the car, we'd say go for it. Whether it's AX option, or if you can afford the LX, then that's wonderful. But you say you can't, so AXO works as well. Now we've got Deepu Manmathan, and he says he's looking for an SUV which is under 20 lakhs. He says he likes the Seltos, he likes the driving dynamics, and he's asking should he go for that, or should he settle for a second-hand Ford Endeavour, which is larger. He says he's going to use it mostly on the road and not so much off-road. So we'd say go for the new car, go for the Seltos. It can seat 5, it's comfortable, and it's a new car, so you're not saddled with any issues that a used car might bring. So yeah, Deepu, go for the Seltos. It makes more sense. And that's a wrap on All About Cars. Like we said at the start, lots of questions. We had fun answering them, and I hope that we'll see another really long list of questions because it's great fun. So do keep writing in, and don't forget, subscribe, comment, share, like, do all of those things. Thank you for watching.